What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We made it, dude. First week. It's
I
Friday.
know it's wild.
Man, I can't imagine. Like you look outside, it's so sunny. This is like the first year in my recollection where if baseball season were happening right now, they would have played like their first 5 games without having any rain.
I know. Don't remind me. I'm already sad that baseball's canceled right now.
I know everything is, but hey, you know what's not canceled? IB history.
History.
Let's go. We're here. Shout out to all the kids out there that have been keeping up with us. Um, the engagement numbers are starting to improve on the YouTube analytics. It's a little scary what kind of data that YouTube provides to us, man. I'm blown away by it. Like it'll tell us like average watch time. And it's interesting, man. This generation, I guess maybe I fall just as victim to it, but we're a fast forward generation. Like get to the point, cut to the chase, and here we are 2 minutes in and we haven't even started our lecture yet. So you ready to get rolling?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Authoritarian states. Boom. Share. Ooh, you know what I just saw was a share.
What?
I saw a share audio. Hold up. Share. Ooh, share computer sound. That could be fun.
I'm gonna start playing some music.
Yeah, man, that's a big deal. This could be really fun. So, all right, y'all. Well, welcome. This will be quick. I think it's maybe 10, 11 slides, something like that. We're going to pick up where we left off. So at this point, the beer hall push has occurred and Hitler is now on trial. He is facing charges of treason, which carried with it the potential of a very hefty sentence. The minimum sentence is 5 years in prison. The maximum sentence is death, depending on how bad the treason was. So, so the trial's beginning. It's February 26, 1924, and the courtroom had 120 seats in it, and over 60 of those seats were filled by journalists, which is just a brilliant propaganda opportunity for Adolf Hitler. All the national newspapers are in attendance, their reporters are there, and he's going to get an opportunity to take the courtroom and turn it into his own platform to state the case for overthrowing the Weimar Republic and ascribing to his ideology embedded in the NSDAP. The presiding judge in this case, George Neidhart, is a really important guy here. He is Novelli and I were just talking about this yesterday. Castro and Hitler were the beneficiaries of a judiciary with wide latitude in doling out sentences that were relatively lenient. I know in my class, Novelli, we talked a little bit about the connections you were discussing yesterday with me, the similarities between Hitler and Castro, and the fact that their judiciary branch let them off pretty easy. And we're talking about pretty heinous stuff here, right? I mean, 4 police officers murdered.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, tell us about
uh,
what Castro.
well,
Go ahead.
okay. So in both cases, you have an armed insurrection against basically official government, either troops or buildings, and like in the case of Hitler, at least, we'll stay with this for now. Like, I find it shocking that his punishment wasn't death. I mean, if this wouldn't have resulted in capital punishment, what would have? I
Yeah.
mean, because like, I think back to like some of the pictures that you were sharing yesterday or a couple days ago on the slides, the amount of people that were there, his intentions of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it's always interesting to try and imagine
Yeah.
some of these events, like if they had happened today, what kind of the punishments would look like. What would that look like in our society? And it's a big deal. I mean, it was an armed insurrection. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's insane. And, the prosecutor in this case, Hans Ehard, called Hitler the soul of the whole undertaking. And so, the prosecutor sought to force Hitler to bear the brunt of the responsibility for this Munich beer hall push. And so, the structure of this trial was interesting. as I was reading, the judicial proceedings are quite different from in Germany, in Weimar Germany, than from what we understand in our own society. The judge is actually the one that gets to ask the questions of the defendant, which is a significant weakness when you think about the level of preparedness that a judge would have to be up to the, I think about all the trials that a judge oversees to be able to be prepared to sort of be a cross-examiner of every single defendant. That takes a lot. I mean, what's the point of a prosecutor if the judge is the one that's going to do all the questioning? And so Hitler, of course, not short on words, nor was Castro, another similarity, gives a 4-hour opening statement that dazzled the spectators in the room. There were stories of reporters in the room being brought to tears. He told his life story, and he's just a really captivating speaker. And this speaks to that, one of those tools, of the role of the leader. He certainly bore the burden of leading this political party fully on his shoulders, and he did in this trial. He just the nature of his delivery, the emotion behind it was captivating for the audience members, for the members of the media. And it's interesting, in this opening statement, he laid out the problems of the country, which we are well versed in at this point. He referred to communists as not even human beings. And he blamed the government in Berlin for the economic crisis, which of course was accurate. So, Hitler, some of his words, he said, policy is made not with the palm branch, but the sword. Palm branch, a figurative element designed to, I guess, a biblical term, right? A peaceful approach, peace offering. And his words are going to be reported around the world. He made no secret about the fact that violence was the only perceived means to achieve the ends that he wanted for Germany, which was to, quote, only get the best for his people. He wanted the best for his people. In reference to Kahr and the individuals, the other two Bavarian ministers that were there the night of that he took captive, he compared them to a horse that lost its courage before the hurdle. What do they call that sport, by the way? Equestrian? What do they call it?
It's I don't know the correct form of the word, but it's like you got it. I'm not even going to attempt to make up a word there.
I've seen it on television a couple times.
It's about to be like on ESPN 8 because we got nothing else going.
Yeah, I mean, throw it on. Let's go. Let's get it on ESPN. The more intriguing horse equestrian sports is barrel racing. That's a fascinating one to me. It's captivated me. Maybe I'll get on YouTube later on and watch some.
And polo.
Yeah,
Argentina. As we know.
Yeah.
Yes, 60 Minutes, amazing segment on cloning polo horses.
Yeah.
Check it out, kids.
The LeBron James of polo horses was allowed to be cloned. The entire bench was LeBron James polo horses. Unbelievable. Anyways, we digress. Basically, he referred to the Bavarian leaders as cowards. And it was obvious at this point in 1924 that he had a strong grudge against Kahr and the Bavarian ministers, who he perceived to be traitorous to his own mission. So the other 9 defendants also got to deliver opening statements. They were several hours each. The judge didn't interrupt at all, as the military planner in the NSDAP, Hermann Kreibel, labeled Berlin a criminal government. No intervention at all. Judge, just go ahead. Let them go. Just let them, completely lambaste the government. And then, General Ludendorff, who we mentioned a couple days back, blamed Marxist Jews and the Catholic Church for all of Germany's problems.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Hitler's defense wasn't even going to attempt to try and make the case that this, wasn't his fault or anything. He was essentially saying that he was justified in doing this, and that he shouldn't be held accountable because basically the actions of the government forced his hand in doing this. Correct. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, clearly remorseless.
Oh
all of
yeah.
the defendants had no remorse. And don't forget, lives were lost in this. It's just crazy. Ernst Röhm testified, quote, "I still cannot comprehend that I should have to defend myself for a deed that seemed so natural to me." Just the hubris is remarkable.
Wow.
So the only time the judge intervened was when the court felt like the Bavarian government was being challenged. Or the other thing the judge did is he would frequently go into secret session if what was about to be told was going to indict the German government for failing to uphold the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. So, the preparations, for example, that the SA undertook with the local Bavarian military officers, that was a blatant violation of the Treaty of Versailles. And so anytime that would happen, the judge would go into secret session, and that way the reporters couldn't know what the complicity of the German government, or I guess aspects of the German government, had played in this event. So it took 6 days for opening statements. And again, as I just said, the judge's goal primarily was to just protect the reputation of the Bavarian leaders and the government in Bavaria. Judge really didn't care about Berlin, didn't care about protecting the Weimar Republic, but the Bavarian state was the primary defense of the judge. So he allowed rants on foreigners, Marxists, Jews. He allowed criticisms of the government in Berlin, but he would intervene anytime Bavaria was questioned or called into question by Hitler and his defendants.
And so that's interesting because Bavaria is part of the broader Germany. I mean, technically, they're under the purview of the government of Berlin, but the judge felt that it was more appropriate for him to intervene when they criticized Bavaria than Berlin.
Correct. It would be like a Washington state judge saying, look, you can criticize the national government all you want, but as soon as you start to make Washington state's government look bad, nah, I got to draw the line there. You don't get to disrespect our state.
That's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So the prosecutor's closing remarks were astounding. He praised Hitler's honest efforts to inspire belief in the German cause. He said, frankly, as human beings, we cannot withhold our respect from Hitler. A very sympathetic statement from a prosecutor that is jaw-dropping in nature. To hear a prosecutor who is tasked with charging a defendant in treasonous behavior and murder, refer to him in that fashion. It's just I think speaks to the disillusionment of the entire German population by 1924. So Hitler's defense attorney had a really good argument, said that, how can you put my client on trial if he actually coordinated with Bavaria's Reichswehr, which is the term for local military, he was helped by the government. So why is he in trouble? He said that working with the state and local authorities could not be any crime. His name was Lorenz Roeder, by the way, Roeder. He said, allow a man who has stood up with every fiber of his being for the German people, the German state, and German greatness to keep standing up for the German people, the German state, and German greatness. He said, Adolf Hitler on March 27 said, I wanted to be the destroyer of Marxism. I was born for politics. As a bird must sing because he's a bird, I must engage in political life. Hitler clearly saw destiny in the form of politics in his future. He stated, the hour will come when the masses who stand in the streets under our swastika flag will unite with those who fired at us on November 8th. The army we have formed is growing from day to day. I was reading last night in Kershaw's book, well after the rise of Hitler to chancellorship, the SA grew to 2 million members, which is a massive.
Wow.
We think about
That's huge.
It's a militia, right? The SA is really just a militia. It's not a government sanctioned military organization, and it swelled to over 2 million people, which is why Hitler ends up taking the drastic measures he takes that we'll talk about in the next unit. But clearly, this quote here is foretelling of the future. This quote moved some people in the courtroom to tears. He was creating massive propaganda here. You just imagine this quote hitting all of the newspapers. It's going to resonate with millions of Germans. He says, "For it is not you, gentlemen, who pronounce judgment upon us. Instead, the judgment of the eternal court of history will pronounce against this prosecution, which has been raised against us." And we all know history has judged Hitler in quite the opposite fashion. Nonetheless, this quote was very similar to what? What's it sound like, Novelli?
History will absolve me.
Like,
it's almost like the same thing.
Exactly.
And Castro delivers that in a courtroom.
In a courtroom.
So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, he delivers it in a courtroom. 1953, right? So, or they went on trial, November 1953, something like that?
Yeah, 53. And, I mean, as I assume Hitler, when he was in jail and between trial, this is where he kind of solidified these ideas. Castro wrote his speech in jail, too. And then, even going forward a little bit, Hitler, when he actually gets sentenced, he solidifies his political beliefs through that book, Mein Kampf. Yep. And Castro goes on to say that he basically formulates his whole plan for coming back to Cuba and displacing the Batista regime during his time in jail. Yep. So it's kind of interesting because the governments, in some way, due to their lenient sentences, kind of allowed both of these people to kind of game plan and get their effects in order so that they could come back and make a real impact.
Yep. So fascinating similarities there. They're going to take these speeches and turn them into propaganda. So judgment ends up getting handed down on April Fool's Day, 1924. Hitler and 3 others were found guilty and sentenced to 5 years in prison, the minimum sentence. The remaining 6 defendants were placed on probation. Ludendorff was not. He was acquitted entirely for his role, even though he was one of just 2 men in that room of 5 people, with Hitler taking those 3 Bavarian ministers hostage, essentially. They were all eligible for parole in 6 months' time. And the presiding judge, his quote at the end of the trial was, "These lenient sentences are justified by the purely patriotic, noble, and unselfish motives of the defendants." This is from the judge's mouth. Never mind that 4 police officers were killed in this beer hall push.
But it was all in the name of Germany. It's okay if it's patriotic.
Isn't that crazy? So
that's wild.
So there's a question, right? Like, and this was a question the judge had to deal with. What do we do with Hitler? We need to expel him, right? He's an Austrian. He should be sent back to Austria. That's what we do to criminals who are not legal citizens. And the judge says Hitler is a German Austrian. He considers himself to be a German. In the opinion of the court, the meaning and intention of the terms of Section 9, Paragraph 2 of the, quote, law for the protection of the Republic cannot apply to a man who thinks and feels as German as Hitler does. Hitler, who voluntarily served for 4.5 years in the German army at war, who attained high military honors through outstanding bravery in the face of the enemy, was wounded, suffered other damage to his health, and was released from the military into the control of the District Command Munich. He is a German. He will not be expelled from Germany.
That's pretty crazy.
Isn't that nuts, man?
That's wild.
So Hitler, while he's in prison for 9 months, he's released on December 20th, 1924. He writes Mein Kampf. He says, without this imprisonment, Mein Kampf would not have been written. And there were basically 2 themes in his autobiography. Theme number 1 was that world history is a struggle between races, and the Aryan race is the culture creating race. The Jewish race is the culture destroying race. anti-Semitic, you know. And then secondly, he said that there's an imperative. We have a duty, an obligation to expand Germany. He said we need Lebensraum, which is translates into living space. You're going to want to underline, circle, star, highlight that term, get it in your notes. He's going to be in prison for about 9 months. And Mein Kampf is going to be his work. It's going to be what ends up becoming his rallying cry. It's going to sell millions of copies, by the way, by 1945. I can't remember the exact number, but it's pretty crazy how popular this book became. I had a history professor once in college tell me that any history professor who tells you they've read Mein Kampf and understood it all is a liar. I guess it's incoherent in places, but oh well. Didn't stop.
I've never checked it out at the library.
No, it's like 724 pages long or something crazy like that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So there you go, guys. This is the end of the Munich Beer Hall push. It's clearly the trial was a propaganda opportunity. It's how he used the media to his advantage, the international media. It is safe to say that after April 1924, Adolf Hitler was a household name in Germany. But I will say that many Germans didn't take him all that serious, all the way even through his nomination and acceptance of the chancellor position. Many Germans still believed at the time that he would be in and out pretty quick. He was just too radical to survive and exist as a chancellor for too long. But you know, the German people had other plans. So, and we'll talk about that stuff later. This beer hall push can apply to every single one of those 5 elements. So this is, you know, a really, really significant event. And so if you got any questions on it, feel free to email me or Novelli. It is Friday, Novelli. I usually do True Story Friday. You got News Friday. Usually you got any fun news for the kids before we turn them loose?
Fun. You know, I was looking this morning and the news is dominated by the coronavirus. I was trying to find some things that were outside of that. And I didn't really see much before we had our staff meeting this morning. So I don't have anything right now, but I'm going to try and find some things that are uplifting each week outside this whole illness mess that we can focus on. I do every Friday. I do tell my students my 4 rules to the weekend. So
okay, what
I guess,
are those?
Okay, they're very important. Okay, so every weekend we need to follow 4 rules. Number 1, you have to do something fun. Number 2, you have to do something healthy for you. 3 is safe, and 4, very important, you have to do something within legal boundaries. Okay, so if you follow all 4 of those rules, it guarantees that I will see you on Monday.
Good. Well, you say you guarantees.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, generally, I guess it doesn't guarantee, but it gives me a pretty good chance that nothing bad will happen.
Okay, that's good.
What are you doing this weekend?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea. I'll probably be doing some lesson planning. But other than that, man, just trying to get our bearings still, I think, you know?
Yep.
It's weird because, I don't know. We just built a schedule. Yesterday, I was telling Novelli before we started the meeting, we built a schedule for my own kids. Would encourage all y'all listening out there to do the same for yourself. You should definitely be trying to pencil in some times to take part in the various courses that you're taking. The teachers, we're all starting to get on the same page with, you know, what are we producing for the kids? So you probably want to carve out some time in those schedules for yourself to stay disciplined. We do expect y'all to stay disciplined. We shouldn't have waited to the end of the video to talk about average watch time, but, you know, step it up.
They'll pick it up. Yeah, they'll pick it up.
Gritty. Just be gritty, right? That's what separates the winners from losers in society is grit. That's what Angela Duckworth says. She kind of wrote the book on it, literally. So, Anyways, let's turn these guys. I love that you're rocking your Browns hoodie. I got my Hawks. By the way, what's it? I'm trying to. What's I say? Super Bowl. Is it backwards on your screen? Can you see it? What's
So
that
that's
word?
not the one with Malcolm Butler.
I think it's it. What's that word? Is that mirrored right there? I can't tell what that says there.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Mirrored on
think
my
you're breaking
screen.
up. You're breaking up.
Yeah,
I can't
sure.
really.
Weird, man. Weird. So, when the Browns win their first Super Bowl, I'll buy you your long sleeve shirt. How's that for a deal?
That sounds so good. That
Yeah.
sounds so good to me.
All right, man. Well, all right, buddy. Hey, you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Yeah.
Deuces.